Recognizing the seriousness of this terrorist attack, the CCS decided upon the following measures. 1. The Indus Water Treaty of 1960 will be held in abeyance with immediate effect until Pakistan credibly and irrevocably abjures its support for cross-border terror.
India put the Indus Water Treaty into abeyance after the Pahalgam attack, which happened in 22nd of April 2025. Since then, there has been a lot of debate that how India would be using that excess water and what infrastructural changes that need to be done to maintain that excess water. However, another question which has risen is whether the Indus Water Treaty was technically of any use to India since it was signed. For context, the Indus Water Treaty was signed between India and Pakistan on 19th of September 1960. But there were certain aspects to this treaty which actually were detrimental to India's growth. So in this video, I will take forward 4 such aspects which were actually against the interests of India. First of all, the financial contribution that India had to do for Pakistan's architecture. So as a part of this treaty, India had to provide Pakistan with 62.06 million pounds, which was almost about $1 billion today, for building its infrastructure. India was at that point of time going through poverty, droughts and famines, and this huge financial contribution again actually put it back in its progress towards development, even though it lost access to its western rivers. So coming to the point of the western rivers, as I mentioned, India lost total control of Indus, Jhelum and Chenab, and India was not allowed to interfere, and it could not actually even restrict the flow or use it for any other purposes. It was only restricted to use that for limited domestic and hydroelectric power. This was a huge blow to India in terms of actually developing that region, although a large catchment area was on the Indian side, and this actually led its irrigation and hydroelectric facilities to be put in a lot of hindrances. One such classic example was the Kishan Ganga project. The Kishan Ganga project was proposed to be started in 2007, but in 2011 this project was put on hold when Pakistan protested against it. Finally, in 2013, a court of arbitration ruled that India could go ahead with the project, but it had to maintain a minimum downstream flow. And in this way, India's infrastructural costs also kept on increasing for carrying out this kind of project. Another aspect of this treaty was the limitations that were imposed on India in terms of its storage capacities, and this actually detrimentally affected India in terms of managing floods, droughts and even the seasonal availability of water for its masses. One such classic example of this issue was the Blunder barrage that India had proposed on the Jhelum tributary, and this actually was opposed by Pakistan. India wanted to build this barrage so that it can properly carry out navigation and also store significant water amounts for periodic drought. But this was put in abeyance, and since 1980s there has been no progress in this project. Another critical aspect which I had also mentioned while discussing about India's control loss of the western rivers was that India was imposed with a lot of operational constraints when it had to build any hydroelectric power project. This meant that India had to conform to very strict designs, and technical complexities. What resulted was that India's overall cost in carrying forward such projects increased over a period of time. Two such historical instances where India actually faced opposition from Pakistan for setting up hydroelectric projects was the Baglihar Dam project on the Chenab River and the Ratel hydroelectric project. For the former, Pakistan opposed, especially regarding the gated spillways. In 2007, a neutral level expert opined that India could go ahead with the project, but it had to reduce the height of the dam's dashboard. For the latter project, there were similar proceedings in the Court of Arbitration, and also a neutral level expert hearing was done in 2023 to 2025. Sadly, many experts say that the Indus Water Treaty was never about providing water and ecological balance. Rather, it was a political game. In his book, Indus Divided, India, Pakistan and the River Basin Dispute, Daniel Haynes, professor at the University College London, states, and as summarized by Omer Ahmed in his publication in The Wire, the Indus Water Treaty was a culmination of political events taking place in the world at that point of time. The military coup of Ayub Khan, the lessening of the strength of Indian National Congress, the election of John F. Kennedy, and the result of the Cold War, which actually compulsed US, UK and the NATO countries to financially contribute to the Indus Water Treaty project. So this was definitely a diplomatic setback of India in the 1960s, because it not only lost control over its western rivers, it was also a geopolitical setback. And this also further corroborated the fact that the non-alignment movement at that point of time was not a geopolitical masterstroke, but rather it was a diplomatic roadblock. That was all from me today in this video. In the comment section, do let me know what do you think about the Indus Water Treaty and whether it was a boon or a bane for India. So please do also like, share and subscribe my channel. Thank you.